Well, good morning. Welcome to Texas A and a session on card windows. If that's not where you intended to be, there is no shame in leaving and going somewhere else. If it's your very first DevCon and this is the very first session you've chosen to come to, if you can keep a secret, it's my first DevCon on the big boy stage as well. So I'll be kind to you if you'll be kind to me. My name is John Renfrew, obviously otherwise known to my friends as Mark. I am a proper qualified mathematics teacher and also a qualified lab and dance teacher. That's my Myers-Briggs profile, for those of you who are bored in the session, and my StrengthsFinder strengths, and also how I describe myself to others. I absolutely love driving fast, and to prove that, I have just had a Corvette Z06 for the last week driving around Texas. Amazing. I'm particularly fond of blank pages and colored pencils, and my favorite architectural material is glass. I have a social media presence on a GitHub site, but apparently this is not the FileMaker speed dating session, so let's get on with what we're here to do. We look at card windows, just a bit of refreshing the landscape and pushing us into some modular concepts and to sharing. And for the absence of doubt, today's session will be delivered at speed in the English language. My subtext is this, that card windows are much more than just an interface widget. It's an opportunity to think all of user interaction and user experience. So a quick recap. They came in FileMaker 16. It's like putting tracing paper over existing window and you get something brand new. It's a new session with the same user. And obviously we learned immediately you can show data from any other context at the point of edit. It can be extend outside, a card window can extend outside the parent, and that means it can be wholly outside the parent window as well. There is some minimum sizing on Mac and OS, and who are the people like me who the first time we had a card window did this? The tiniest card window I could make just to see what happens. On desktop, there is some minimum sizing, not so on iOS, to be fair. There are a few things you can't do. It doesn't work on WebDirect, it's just difficult for the engineers, and obviously there's no need for it to work on server. Things from the parent window you don't get in the card window. And the title shows on iOS, but not desktop. So be careful what you name your windows, because viewers may see them. And it is slightly backwards compatible. And by default, obviously, it defaults to the center of the window, the size of the layout that you define as the card. And our only two options are to close the window and to dim all of the area that is not the window, the parts around it, and those are obviously optional. On iOS, you don't get a little cross to click. You can just click off the control anywhere. And when it first came along, first reaction is, well, this is a replacement or an improvement for popovers. There's a lot less need to manage users clicking off in places we don't want them to click off to. We work out, oh, we can now show data from another context without some more relationships. That sounds good. And it appears to add to the whole user experience and design with a very minimalist intrusion. There's no Chrome, there's nothing else. But importantly, it replaces a previous copy-paste mentality into a design once, use many mentality. We'll have got popover controls that we've taken from one layout to another and broken it along the way. Now we don't have to do that. I mean, I think this is the real sleeper function behind card windows, and that's what we're going to explore today, because it pushes us immediately into modular programming. And what do I mean by that? Separating out the functionality of our programs into independent, interchangeable parts, which for shorthand we shall call modules, such that each one contains everything necessary to execute one aspect of desired functionality. So modules perform logically discrete functions interacting through well-defined interfaces, and those can be modified by passed parameters. So previously, we've had scripts that can stop and ask a user a question. Here, we can take all kinds of things and put them in a box. Tables with fields, scripts, functions, custom functions, the whole of the calculation engine, and layouts and all of their elements can be contained in a module, self-contained in a module. So we want to call a module, we maybe pass it some parameters, and importantly, we now have a user able to interface with this in a very rich kind of way, and then we get an answer back, which may be data, maybe not. Modules clearly are meant for sharing. Richard Stallman says, sharing is good, and with digital technologies, sharing is easy. What do I mean? Who am I going to share with? Well, the first thing is I can share modules with me. All of the work that I'm currently doing, the file that I'm currently working on, I can create a module and use it in several places. I can use it across several things that I'm working on, across several files. I can share it with the apps that I'm building for my customers, all of them. I can share it with other people's customers' apps, if necessary. And obviously, as a module, if it's self-contained, I can share them with the community. Card windows lead us very naturally to a place where we, or someone else, can define and solve a problem once and use it again anywhere the answer is required. Some of you may be familiar with Modular FileMaker.org. Todd Geist set it up and promoted it about 4 years ago. And the idea was to kind of set a few rules about how you might share code originally, with things about scripting and how widgets might work. But they were all copy-paste. So there's a lot of work to do to manage what happens if you broke something when you copied it into your application. If card windows as modules can be fully self-contained, including all of the UI, then it's really easy to implement. We might have to reference something, have a couple of scripts that talk to it, in and out. If we want to take it away again, or change the little machine at the other end, that's a really simple task, and we haven't cluttered up our whole code just to create a single feature. Some of what I'm doing today is intermediate, and part of what Todd is doing this afternoon in his session actually follows on from this with some of the more advanced things. It's good because I've got such a lot to say. There's a lot of talk in the community about the transactional nature of data, the idea that if you're going to save records, everything in your transactions should save or nothing. I think card windows lead us further to a transactional workflow, locking a user from the beginning to the end of a workflow. You have to do this, then you do this, and then you answer this question, then you give me this, and then you do this. And that's the end of the workflow. We can work with data in memory, giving a very smooth user experience. All of our favorite virtual list techniques come into play. JSON parameters allow us to build, modify, add, amend, cancel, destroy collected data along the journey without hitting the database. I can get to the end of the process, and if at any point in the middle, the user fails validation or clicks the cancel button, it really means cancel, and nothing happens. Right at the end, I've collected all of the data I will need, and only then do I think about writing to the database. And that's a transactional process. If that fails, I can store what the user would have done, and I can check it to see whether they made a mistake or we made a mistake. It's also a methodology for implementing change control if you have a company that requires that. Somebody goes and edits a record. The record is never edited, but what you wish to edit is stored and can be reviewed and approved. Really powerful technique. And the kinds of things that people have come up with that said, hey, here's what we can use card windows for are these, and we're going to look at a few of these in detail. But there are a couple of problems that you might need to solve if you're going to use card windows. Positioning, where to go next, what to do while you're away on holiday, and integration. And the last two, Todd's going to cover later, so that's great. Positioning. We've got two things to help us work out position on a layout. Get layout object attribute with a named object and bounds, or field bounds, passing it a field. And you get 5 values, and the correct orientation for you is left, top, right, bottom, round. Okay? Easy to remember, just start with your left hand. These are measured from the screen edges. It does also work for non-rectangular objects because you get numbers back if there's a line that you have named. So I have my desktop. I can get some numbers about the desktop. I can get some numbers about where a window may be positioned on the desktop. I can get some information about what parts of the window might be showing. I can see that the status bar is showing, but I don't know which version of the status bar is showing. Icon only, text only, icon and text. But I do know it's showing. And within the window itself, I can get a lot of numbers of sizing and positioning. All of that's measured from the edges of your screen. Okay, you've listened to me for long enough. Here's a question. In FileMaker, is the screen position always measured using page coordinates? What I mean by that is 0, 0, top left, across and down. Please put your hand up if you believe the answer to be yes. That is always true. I thought it'd be most of you. Because the real answer is, in fact, no, obviously. But it's not where you think. You can't read this, it'll be in the notes. So where that yellow object in that screen, there are some positive numbers on a desktop. On an iPad in portrait mode, those numbers are positive. On an iPad in landscape mode, you get this. The origin moves from the top left to the bottom left for no specific reason at all. Because genuinely, I don't know either. Ask an engineer. Why is that important? Well, iPad Pros are becoming desktop replacement machines for people. And there's a lot of screen real estate. So if we want control over where our cards turn up, you do need to know that for landscape only on iPad. We also have to allow for the thing that we call Chrome. The part of the operating system gives us round our content. And a quick way to work out how much Chrome there is a very simple calculation. That's the height of the window. That's the height of the content. The difference is not content, and that's Chrome. You do that experiment on all of those platforms, you'll get some numbers back. But you can't tell in any way programmatically if the scroll bars are showing. Working from right to left. With no scroll bars, we get some nice numbers. If only the right-hand scroll bar is showing, that's fine, because we see a difference between the total width and the content width. But if the bottom scroll bar is showing as well, there's already some Chrome there. So you don't know if that number that you get back is because it's the toolbar or it's the toolbar plus the scroll bar. And therefore, when we're doing some calculations, we can be out by the amount or the difference between the two. Oh, and then there's the ruler. Okay? I've got a nice pink box that I'd like to be at vertical position 0 on the screen. Okay? The ruler's not showing. I say, put a card window at top 0. That's fine. If you want to calculate with the ruler on, when you say to FileMaker, let's have the window height less the content height, that number's now bigger. It's the top Chrome plus the ruler. It equates there to 44 pixels. When you say, OK then, can I put the card window at top 0? It then goes, oh, no, the ruler's now on the inside, not the outside. So if the text ruler is showing, you have to adjust your vertical positioning by 22 pixels. Again, ask an engineer, I don't know. But you can find it out. Users can turn that on and off at will if they have access to the menus. So you do have to know if it's there or not. And stacking. Can you open a card window when you're on a card window? Please put your hand up if you think the answer is no. Well, you are all correct. I'll put your hands down because the real answer is no, but you can open a document window over that card window and put a card window over the top of that. There's a little bit of juggling to do. And once that's done, you can, in fact, if the window is not full maximized, you can move the original parent window. Would you like to see that? For those that are non-believers. There are no non-believers in the States, are there? Don't worry about this. I can sit with you and show the demo, okay? There is a card window rendered at the smallest size. So I've got a little red screen, and it shows that that's the smallest size. And if I click the button, it shows there are 2 open windows using the window names functions. So now I'm going to put a card window, put a document window over the top of the card window. For those that don't believe, there are now 3 windows. So now we're going to put a card window, then we're going to put a document window, and then we're going to put a card window over the top of that. Now then, I can now move that, which actually isn't the desired behavior. And the reason is the card window, the Chrome that you see at the top is from the original document window, not the card window. But I will just again go, okay, now we've got 4 windows open. Another thing you have to be careful of is not showing scroll bars. I did tell you if you showed the scroll bars, you couldn't tell what was going on. So now when I want to open a card window, actually it's above the ruler, it's in a weird place. I can see part of this window, but because it's a parent under a card, I now can't move this. I can, however, move this. But I can't interact with it because there's some card windows above it that are blocking it. So final one, we've got it all sorted out. Card window, document window, neatly covering the top, another card window. Are we impressed? I do hope so. Let me just change that. And I'm bustling my own tables as far as screens are concerned. So the way that works is, really quickly, you have to grab the left and the top of the first parent window that you're starting with and store it. We can put a new card window on the top. I was doing it left 0, top 0. Make sure the ruler is then off so it doesn't screw anything up. That is measured from the content of the first parent window. Now if we want to put a new document window, it has to be measured from the screen edges, not that card. That's why we need to grab the first set of values so we can line it up over the top. And then we're putting a new card window over the top of that, but it has to have a new top position because that's measured from the content of the window over the card, it's Russian dolls, isn't it? So that is the reverse of how much Chrome is there showing at the top, which we can just get by minusing the number that we got previously or turning the calculation around. But that's how it works. Go and play on your own. So if this module thing is a machine that calculates or interacts with data, it's independent. And when I come back after I've been on a holiday, I might want to choose to go to lots of different places. If you don't already have a custom function which says, where is this thing in this list of things, this code will help you at this point in time. Because in FileMaker 17, we now have the ability to run a script by name. So what this does is say, here's a script name that I'd like to run when you come back. Here's a list of all the script names that uses the script names function. Usually beautifully titled, I think. Where's this in this list? It's at position number 5. Position number 5, come in, your time is up. Over here is a second function, script IDs. That returns a list of FileMaker's internal IDs which match up with the script names. So I know this is in the 5th position. What's in the 5th position in this list? Number 11. You can therefore store or pass as a parameter, when you come back, can we run a script with an ID of 11, please? It's the same as the thing we might do with layouts, okay? So when I come back, there's the opposite. I've got number 11. I could have also stored the file name. Can I have number 11 in that other file, please? So I say, where's number 11 in this list of numbers? Oh, it's now number 7. What's the 7th thing in the list of script names? Now run that script by that name. That survives script renaming and script reordering. Once you've done the programming, somebody else comes along, puts another script in above yours. It won't break. Absolutely beautiful. And all you need to store or pass is potentially a file name or the script ID. So I have said that there's a philosophy here, which is that card windows as a module can be fully self-contained. That's the 3rd time I've said that. You should have got that by now. Including all UI elements. It's so much more than just a widget. It's a whole door into a world, particularly when you include JSON-encoded parameters with that. I'm not going to talk about that at all. I know Daisy is covering part of that in her session later. But particularly, it's about how we think. We can now think system-wide, not window or task-wide. So the kinds of things that people are doing with card windows. Mixed mode windows. I can look at the same set of records that I'm on. I can look at a list view from somewhere different. I can look at some data that's in a table that doesn't even have a relationship. It can be a list of values. All of those virtual list things come back to really help us, along with the new Get Active portal row. Edit forms. Replacing popovers in portals. Popovers in portals, when you want them to be thin, are a nightmare, particularly on the first and last row. And they don't work terribly well in list view either. Well, now we can position our card exactly where we want it on the screen if we're smart. And to the user, that's the edit form in the place they're currently working. Terms of service, very common web pattern, where the button you want somebody to click is off the bottom of the page, so you have to pretend to scroll and read it all at the very least. So you can hide something off the bottom of the page with a modal window. Modal previews, only storing thumbnails in your database so it's nice and light, but if somebody needs to see the original or a PDF file, having a card window that will show you content, which could also be things like charts, they're temporary, they're throwaway, then it's all gone away, cleans up after itself. It's a very good house guest. Here's a really quick example, something I'm currently working on, just to orientate yourself. It's about businesses. On the right-hand side, we're storing properties at the top, utility meters next band down, and then contracts in current contracts and historic data. Okay? So businesses can have more than one property. Each property can have more than one meter. Okay? So the little yellow arrow is where all of the action happens. If you say, I need to add a new meter, the first question is, well, this person's got more than one property. Which property? Here's a card window. Once you've selected that property, immediately get a card for data entry. And depending on whether it's gas or electric, it changes the interface very slightly. But then when you want to say, oh, now I'd like to add a contract, first thing I need to know is what property? At that property, there now appears to be more than one meter. Which meter are you talking about? And once you've done two choices, then here's a data entry card. But as far as the user is concerned, it's all visually in that same spot, next to where the data would be seen, and they can still see the original data. Navigation is another great use for card windows. It's such a nightmare to copy button bars across a whole solution and then have your client go, oh, can I change the icons? I don't like the color. Could we do something else there? It's a nightmare, isn't it? Card windows are not the sole answer, let's be fair. I think like a year ago, just after we'd had card windows, Martha Zink created a great little example file which just showed her, here's the navigation. Where do you want to go next? Here's the thing on the screen with some big fat buttons. The point about card windows is the functionality is on the card. If I need to change the functionality, that's where I edit it, not on every single layout, including the ones I forget and then have to get paid money to go back and fix. Context-free data entry forms. Because the card can be on a different layout and in a different context, you can add and edit data from any single table in any single one of your files in any other layout across the whole app. You can edit or amend data from anywhere where you are right now. Context-free properly. If you need to do things like go and create records, you're already on a card that's locked in somewhere, you can just quickly go and do that. Almost certainly client won't see that happening before the window closes. So it's all neat and tidy. Again, very good house guest. And truly custom dialog boxes without using workarounds like plugins to do that. We can have no limit to the number. If you put no limit to the number of buttons, I would question your design skill and your fact-finding. But we can be including icons and other forms of entry than just text, like container input in them. And obviously, they can have timed appearance. So it can be a dialogue that says this thing, and then it can go away. Somebody where I'm working, I'm kind of mentoring their in-house guy. And he's listened to me waffling on about card windows for about 9 months. But he went off and built this. So they build machines, and based on the first choice that you make, you have a bill of materials to create with optional parts. Here's a card window that uses a virtual list. And if you select the star, then you're selecting that piece. And some of the components you need to have a number. And you could go back and edit the number. And at the button at the bottom just says, build, only when it's finished. All of that stuff is done in JSON, in memory. So you can go and amend absolutely anything until right at the end. So it demonstrates to somebody who isn't, he's just, we'll call him a citizen developer, that's the right term, isn't it? Can just listen to the stuff and go and make things that work using those techniques. So in a little bit of real life, we're going to do two things. We're going to demo dialog boxes, and I'm going to have a little bit of a hack at the new CRM sample app that you can get on the Custom App Academy. And let's do this by zooming in a little bit more, and you can see a little bit what's going on. Got a dialog box. Oh, something wrong with your script. And you can see that the default button is in fact chosen. You can't see it, but believe me, if I just hit enter that now, I'll tell you what, let's go into the script and just turn on the line that irritates me. I'll be turning it off in a while, but we'll just prove it by showing which button was pressed. So we get back the same answer as we do from FileMaker. That was button number 1. Button number 2, your time is up. Button number 2 was pressed, okay? Now, you have to be watching the little colored dot in the top right of the window. We don't now have a default button. So you have to click one or more of the buttons to get an answer. So, and you're as bored as I am now with seeing which button was pressed, because you do believe that I can do this, don't you? Let's show 3 buttons, 4 buttons. Oh, and there's a really interesting thing, some colored text. I'm not going to show you because we don't have time, but I'm going to tell you how I've done it, and if you want to speak to me about it later. Taking the text as get as CSS into this, because when you use JSON, you lose all of the rich formatting. So you have to send some formatting with it. So use get CSS on some rich text. And then I found a custom function which will turn it back into text. So that is, in fact, using a field. All of the others at the moment are using a display variable. But to do that, you need a field on the layout here. And there's a 5th button. OK, what color is the little dot on the right and top? It's white, thank you. You are paying attention. There's one with 4 buttons. What color is the button on the thing on the top? It's white. It's the same layout, isn't it? You know that I haven't got 2 layouts that are different. How have we done that? Well, we're stretching the window. The right-hand 4 buttons are tied to the right-hand side, and underneath there's a 5th button tied to the left-hand side. So when you stretch it, suddenly you get one more. I don't think more than 5 is an appropriate number, frankly, for anything. If you want to do some warning, I'm actually passing this as a base 64 icon. There's lots of other ways to do that, okay? Or a stop icon, or whatever else you want, you can be putting in there. Let's just go back. What color was that? That was red, okay. What color is that? That's green. Okay, I'm just doing your job for you because you're all... A custom dialog box in which you need user input. So something wrong with the script. There's a label, there's an input, and there's one with 2 lines. What color is the thing? Oh, it's green, okay. Here's one with 3 lines. What color is it? Green. So are we going to assume it's the same layout and I'm not cheating? Yes, we are. And in this case, let's go back to 2. This is a data entry field. I'm not destroying it on the way. Now it's back to 3. Oh, and this one is in fact a password data entry. So we have all the same functionality you have with apparently native things with layouts. Do you want to know the trick? Oh, final one. Using it as a timed message. There are no buttons and it just goes away. You will see that the color of the layout is white. So I have used 3 layouts to do all of that. Okay. Would you like to see how I did the 3rd one? Because that's really cool. I want to show you because it's really cool. Okay. So let's look at the... that's the layout. Okay, I'm only using merge variables. I've got this hidden field for where I want to use rich text. And here is a single row, but I showed you 3, didn't I? So you're going to want to know how that works. I know you. Here's a sliding panel that has no sliders, but has been resized. And it's stuck to the bottom. So when the bottom of the screen turns up, it slowly reveals itself without any scroll bars. Do we think that's cool? I do. Thank you. You're very generous. Or it's the first day and you haven't got bored of clapping yet. This is a CRM app. You can get to it. It's a free download off the Custom App Academy that FileMaker have done. Soliant have helped FileMaker to make it. Okay, so it's just a basic CRM. We've got some clients, we've got some contacts within that, we've got some opportunities. And in the contacts, we can do this thing. We can say, add a new interaction. And we're passing in some details that we've got on the particular place where we are, the company and the person. And I just want to do something here. And because I know what opportunities are available for that company, I can select that. So that populates that, and I can go, done. And there we go. We've got a new one. Now, I don't like something about this, which is that we don't know what kind of interaction it was. So I'm going to do 2 little things to hack this and show you the whole point about card windows is now go to one place and have that ripple everywhere through where you use it. These buttons here run a script which sets something to be this parameter. Doesn't matter, you can look at this later because you can download it. But apparently it's not compulsory. So I've changed the button bar at the bottom and I've put an extra blank button bar. So I'm hiding the done word if one of those buttons is not yet pressed, and the other one is therefore shown the opposite set of times, so it's always showing. Okay? Go into browse mode, just move off. And now, done is not there. When I press something for the type of interaction, done is there. And that same card is used in multiple places across this system. So now I've made one change and affected all of the actions across the system. That's why card windows, as we know, are so powerful. But the other thing I'd really like to do is that when I'm working somewhere else and somebody phones up, I want to log that phone call straight away. But I don't want to stop what I'm doing and go somewhere else to find their record, to put that in, and then have to go back to where I was. Okay? So I have a feeling that it's on this layout. So I've got a little button hidden on the side. So this is a button here which runs a script, that script, and passes it some parameters as a whole lump of JSON. Okay? So I did a tiny bit of investigating as to what that was doing. This button now runs the same script, and in the parameters, I've taken out the information that says, this is where I know where you are. So now I don't know where you are. You're just somewhere. And therefore, you're going to have to fill in pieces of information that I can't do for you. I'm sitting here, and that button will now work. But what I do want to do is, in fact, and I've done it, clearly I've done it just to help us along. I've done it and I've changed it so it looks more like a button at the top. It does the same thing. I'm now looking at this. Somebody phones up. And I want to record it. Okay? I'm going to say it was a call. The client was, so now I get a drop down for the client. The person who called is, in this particular case, it was a brand new person. That's how this works. Let me try and do it with somebody where there is somebody. Who was the first one? I think was it Jane Doe? Should have prepared that better. There we go. Pick them. What was the opportunity for that company? Why did they phone? La, 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 la. Done. And it's recorded in there. Okay, so that was with them for John Doe. So if we go to there and go to the interactions, there is, in fact, I think that's the one I just made. So the principle is, I'm using a card window in a completely different context. And I don't want to leave where I am. I don't want to stop what I'm doing, but I do want to do something else. I think that demonstrates that in a really cool kind of way. Again, if you want to sit with me and kind of have me hack it a bit with you, then we can do that. So a little tip for anybody who's presenting. I have pens lined up on the top of this switcher so I know where the buttons are and I don't have to... It's just a little tip. I used to do that as a job. Got a couple of quick customer videos from real systems showing some interesting stuff with actual card windows rather than pretend card windows. Building this system is for a firm of building surveyors. They mostly manage school properties. And the funding for this comes from local government, and you have to apply for a grant for that. So let's see if this is going to run. So when we want to add a new one, we first get a card window saying, here's all the schools, select one, here's add a new inquiry. The school name has been populated at the bottom. Some empty fields that we've got that we can fill in. Because none of them are filled in, the save button isn't there. So the only thing we can do right now is cancel. But if we want to amend, we have the same card populated with the data from the record. If you click cancel, it goes away. If you change a few things and we watch really quickly on screen, you click save, those details will update. Everything on that screen is a merge thing. The customer can't edit any data and screw it up because we want a controlled way of adding and editing data. In-place entry, that's where the quotes are. So we have a way of adding documents as a quote in the same place. We want to add a note on a particular job, like we just saw on that last app. Select what type it is. But if you want to add a document as supporting evidence, a scan of something that somebody sent in that you want somebody to see, we just click a button, the card window extends to a data entry point. If you want to see the PDF that's in there, because you didn't put it in, and you were away, click the button, there you go. You can download that locally to your desktop if you want. That's a card window. It's not using a field, it's using a web viewer to extract the base 64 of the PDF and show it in a web viewer. A very clever kind of technique. Let's move to the next one. It's part of an HR system. So we've taken lots of the details off. And the table that this sits in is in a separate file, completely encoded and encrypted over there to be able to see it. But we do want to digitize all of the paper that we've got, because you may know that in Europe we've got some legislation about the fact that we don't want to give away people's stuff for free. Okay? So we worked with HR. They have a drop-down at the top that says these are all the sections in which you can record documents. So we'll select one, then we get a card window for the subsections. Once I've selected that, you can see I've reused the design idea, drag a document into there, click the import button, or click the scan button, and you get a card window. I've put the document into my scanner, I press the button, and then I count for 2, and then there's a document in FileMaker. I genuinely didn't touch anything else at the time, but oh dear, I made a mistake, it was in upside down. So if I click clear, I've just cleared that, put the document in the right way around, press the scanner button, it scans, it turns up the right way around this time. So I'm going to add a couple of notes to the bottom of the screen about what this document was about. Underneath, you'll see I've created an obscured file name. It's got nothing to do with the data or the person that it relates to. When I'm ready, click import. But was this document from today or a previous date? Going to click today, you're going to see it be logged in the background, and then there it is in the bottom of the portal turned up. But it's now locked away in there. If you have permission to be here, you can come here and click the little button that allows you to view the PDF. I've used the same window, but there's no download button. You can just view it. But because it's a web viewer, you can't do anything with the thing that you can see on screen, but you can at least see the whole document. You've seen that, that's fine. It goes away. What if you do want to download it? Well, according to our policies, if you're allowed here, you can download it, but you have to tell us why you are downloading it, and that will be logged in the background. So that was it, logged, exported, opened in Adobe, and you'll now see it's got a brand new, different file name at the top. That's nothing to do with the original file name, again, or the data or the record. Both of those things, the scans and that temporary downloaded document, are in a folder that we have control of in FileMaker. When you close this down, that folder gets destroyed. So at the end of the day, all of your temporary stuff has disappeared. So that does actually help us with a bit, or actually quite a lot, with GDPR. The way all of that works, several years ago, Adam Aronson did a great blog post. He's got a thing, that's the link to it. It works with Fujitsu scanners and ScanSnap. They're amazing. I don't get any money for that. It reads a prefs file. So basically you say, run this app when you do a scan, and all it does is pass the path of the file name to it. What that does is read a prefs file, create an FMP URL, open the file and go, what do you want to do with this? Stick it there, and then I've got a button to import. It kind of broke at Windows 10. So I did roll my own using AutoIt on Windows and AppleScript on Apple. The original link's still there, but there's a couple of things about it that don't work. Really quickly, a couple of other use cases. iPod Touch. Okay. It is the single cheapest way to get FileMaker into your user's hands. Because you don't need the phone capability, but it runs FileMaker Go perfectly, and it's got Wi-Fi. So with this particular company I was working with, if you use the Lightning connector, we can put in a USB fob reader, RFID fob reader. The people in the company already have the fobs for door entry access, so we can reuse the fobs. So with engineering, we designed and built a case for it. The little dimple on the back is exactly where the reader is to cover it. It's an HID device. So as soon as you plug it in, you lose the keyboard. So you can't do what's your password by going to a field because you don't get the keyboard. So card window, decided instead, we've still got two-factor authentication. Something you have, something you know. Fob, PIN number. Card window that we made to be a keyboard replacement, that is genuinely it on iOS. It works absolutely beautifully. Satisfies all their compliance issues. And bug reporting. Getting serious with our clients about saying, what don't you like and what went wrong? Okay? This particular client, they have a server in-house because they have like 200 users and it's all on a LAN and it's fast as fast. And you say to them, if you click the red button, you can report a bug. It takes a second or so to just open up. Not a single person in the company knows or cares where that file is. I do, because it's on my server, not theirs. I can't always get into their server to see that, but I can always get to my server. Me and the IT manager know how to get to it. We can log that. That's where I want it, in my office, where I can plan what I'm going to do. Card window just looks like it's part of the interface. Nobody cares or knows where it's coming from. And final thing, we can now create, therefore, completely rich modular widgets. I am not demonstrating this. Hopefully Todd is going to demonstrate how to integrate this. If one of you asks the question, oh, could you demo that to us, John? I might just do that now because it's only dinner, but I'm not going to demo it. But really quickly, I'd done a piece of JavaScript work to create a picker for time. Works beautifully on Mac and horribly on Windows. And what I mean by horribly is not at all. So I decided I could write a picker that was, if I wrote a picker that was pure FileMaker, let's see what we could do with this. So I started with the left-hand window, a really simple date picker, allowing you to scroll backwards and forwards between the three components of dates, which led to, oh, could I do it more as a month at a view, as a viewing a range calendar, which allows us to then do something else. Add a secondary display for lockout dates or holidays or dates that are already chosen. And then finally, doing something you absolutely can't do with FileMaker's fields in one hit. 2 clicks and you can select a range. And what the part on the right hand does shows you that the end of the range is in fact in next month, so you get some visual clues as to what's going on. It's a card in a module. It can live anywhere. It could be in your system. In this case, it's completely outside. And I will give you the link later for where you can go and download it if you want to use it. I have just about finished a module for time and duration entry using card window. You'll see I've reused the number picker. But it's microwave. When you go to a microwave, just type in some numbers and what you get to that time. Okay? So entering data this way, whatever the numbers you have typed in, this will interpret it at the time. And if you add another number, it will then change the time to that. The part at the top can be used as a display. It's a button bar with SVG icons that I created. completely separate and nowhere else, but it can add functionality and richness to what we're doing that we can't do in other ways. I spoke about a year ago in the UK. Jordan Watson, who's another speaker here from the UK, went off and wrote a module about using Google to help you find addresses. That's the address of where to find that calendar. Mark Scott, who was in fact in the audience, wrote the most amazing, rich search functionality card window module that you can apply. That's where to find it. And just recently, on Modular FileMaker, Dan Smith wrote something to help you position cards inside and around the edges of card windows. So there will be updates to the whole session because I've put some things in there I didn't want you to see. Genuinely, thank you, I do stand on the shoulder of giants here, people who have known me and supported me over the years, some of whom unfortunately are not here to see this year, but for being a marvelous and well-behaved audience, thank you. So, because it's your very first session, you are not yet bored with the following line, which is, please remember to fill out your evaluations for this session. Does anybody have a question they want to ask? Oh, clearly you can come and talk to me. We'll take this question, and then we'll see if we can do the demo. Go on.
Sorry. With regard to card window on WebDirect,
yep.
Acts as virtual window. I did one the other day and added a...
So for those that want to stay, I'll really quickly demo both of those things. If you want to go quietly, then please do. Apparently, speak as a human. If you see me in the corridor, you can talk to me. So let's do this one, because this is new and very simple. It's the microwave timer. That's the microwave timer. Demo file, okay? So I'm going to do the select. I get an input window, and this is keyboard-driven on the desktop as well. So I'm just going to go 1203, 12, and it turns itself into time. I'm showing you the trail. I can go backwards down the trail, okay? Or I can just, if I hit escape or the button, I can just reset. So what happens if I do something that is very, okay, so I've got 127. If I now type any other number, it's going to roll over and say, actually, that's 1311. I typed 1271, which is 12 minutes, 71 seconds, but this has interpreted it as the correct time for the numbers that you put in at that value. Because I might now put another number in, and therefore it would now go back to 12710, okay? And then just escape or save. I've saved it, it's just populated a field. If I want to use it as a timed display, that's a small version of it. The issue is with the card window size, for a small display with the card window, you get a lot of black round it. But with a large one, it's very lovely. You can have that, in this particular case, you click escape, or it's just a timed intervention to say that took that much, and it's gone away. That's it. Simples, as they say. So we've got lots of options. We're passing all the options as JSON parameters, so that's how we can modify what happens. Do we use no start date? Do I use today? Do we use a stored date as the start date? So I'm going to start with this date. Okay, it's August the 7th. So as you can see, I can just quickly scroll backwards and forwards through various things. Hit escape, nothing happens. Let's go back and do it again. Let's do tomorrow. Click save. Thank you very much. It's turned up in a field. But now I want to, I've got a pile of examples which show you how it might work. So if we want to look at the range version, okay, first of all, today's date is highlighted. I can pick another day, and today's date is still highlighted but is knocked back. And we go, okay, we'll have that. Oh, it's a range. Okay, that's done that. Let me do really quickly with holidays. Okay, so that's today. Those 3 dates are already blocked out. So I do actually want to see that that person can't have a holiday because for some other reason. It doesn't yet work that those days are locked and won't let you choose that. That is like in the pipeline for maybe another version a bit in the future. But obviously that gives you and there's features like if you go off somewhere else, because you've already chosen a date, if you click the little icon here that says, just jump back to the dates that you had chosen, please. So you can be anywhere else and jump back. Or if you click this button here, this just goes and resets. So you're kind of giving people all of the possibilities with just a few buttons to click. Simple to integrate, completely free to download. If you need any help with it, come and sit and find me at some point. Thank you very much for listening.